Well, it's June Pride Month, and we celebrate the riots at Stonewall of June 1969 as the beginning of the modern LGBTQ+ civil rights movement. British statesman Winston Churchill, by the way, you millennials, look him up, please, said, quote, "Those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it," end quote. Both moments that I just mentioned are the inspiration of History Fort Lauderdale's retrospective going on about LGBTQ+ life in South Florida that will be presented all month long at the Galleria Fort Lauderdale on Sunrise. The special exhibit honors the pioneers of the LGBTQ+ community, including my next guest today, Dr. Gary Keating. He is the founder, artistic director of the Fort Lauderdale Gay Men's Chorus that was founded in 1986. And we welcome all of you to Unapologetically Queer. I'm your host, Al Ferguson, and I am proud to talk to some of the most interesting people of our LGBTQ+ community. This program is unique because it is an unedited conversation. At Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network, our mission is based on the 10 pillars of the LGBTQ+ community. We believe our history is based on the communities of Black LGBTQ+, Latino, lesbian and queer women, trans students and youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. The Fort Lauderdale Gay Men's Chorus was the first gay performing arts organization in the state and one of the first in the nation. So welcome, Gary Keating. And I understand, first off, you are unapologetically queer.
Absolutely.
Unapologetic about it.
Completely unapologetically.
Yeah, exactly, right. Well, and part of the reason why you're here. All right, so first off, tell me about the founding of the Fort Lauderdale Gay Men's Chorus. Oldest LGBT artistic group in the state, one of the oldest in the country. Tell me about the founding. What was it like in the 1980s?
Well, in 1986, nothing had really happened in the community. We had a very active synagogue. We had a very active MCC church. There was also one in Miami. But other than small pride festivals, there really wasn't anything for people to go join, to be part of, and that helped visibility in the community. And I was working and I had to be in New York, and I came across Carnegie Hall and there was a poster for the Gay Men's Chorus of New York. I should say New York City Gay Men's Chorus. And I was like, oh my God. And I had a master's in choral conducting and I wasn't using it. And I thought, I wonder if that would work in South Florida. I went to their performance the next night and in tears, I was so moved. And I saw the pride that happened when they were on the stage. The very next day I flew back to Miami and I called Gary Miller, their conductor. And I said, I was there last night. I'm a conductor. I have a master's. I think this might be an amazing thing for South Florida. That was in December. In February, the Chicago Gay Men's Chorus came here and did 2 performances. They did a Saturday night performance at War Memorial and a Sunday performance as part of the MCC service. Contacted them, asked them if I could sign men up so we could create a chorus here. And that night I got between 70 and 80 signatures. And March 12th, 1986, we had our first rehearsal.
Gary, did I understand this correctly? Did you just tell me that South Florida was the gay men's love child of New York and Chicago?
Yeah.
Is that what you just told me?
In many ways.
Okay.
In many ways.
All right. We always joke that Fort Lauderdale is the gayest place on planet Earth. But while we have a gay mayor today, we think it's interesting that the Gay Men's Chorus started in the 1980s when there was a mayor, I know you remember, a mayor in the 1980s in Fort Lauderdale who went on record by saying, gay people did not live in our city. That was his exact quote. I won't even say his name. the transition of that moment of you forming this organization of gay men in that time when the mayor said you don't exist.
Oh, exactly. And the original course was called the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida then. And then it became Fort Lauderdale in 2003 when there was all the development of the Miami Beach Gay Men's Chorus and a Palm Beach Gay Men's Chorus. And so with the split that happened about 13 years ago, they took that original name back again. But it was an interesting experience. At the time, I was the Associate Managing Director of Gusman Center for the Performing Arts in Miami. And that was our first performance. That Christmas at the Gusman Center, 1,565 seats. We sold almost 1,600 tickets. Wow. And the police were lenient with us and letting people actually sit on stairs and stand. But on the marquee, it said, the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida. The following week, we came to Parker, and we actually had to turn away 300 people.
Wow.
But on the marquee, it said, the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida.
Yeah. So many people listening to you right now. I completely understand what you just said. So many people listening to you right now that don't have this pioneer legacy, which we're going to talk about in a minute. This is the 1980s. It's not 2017 post-gay marriage.
That's correct.
It's in the 1980s. What was that experience like in terms of acceptance in the community? Clearly, the gay community was going to pour in, but what did the broad community think?
No question that the gay community wanted it. That was evidence for us. Our first real performance was at Pride in June of '86, and our first full performance was in December. But we were at the War Memorial for Pride, and we sang our 3 songs, but then our 4th song was We Are the World. And we finished, and we were going to leave the stage, and people started pouring out of the booths and singing it again. We ended up singing it 4 times.
Oh my gosh, 4 encores of the same song.
Same song. And, you know, they're going like this. And I think that was the moment that I realized we had done something that people wanted, that people needed. It was an amazing
interesting.
experience.
Our television cameras are not going to pick up you tearing up, but I can see it in front of me. And it's interesting that you talk. I didn't know that about you talking about that moment. For people today, even in gay community, LGBTQ community, you think about choral music. In the 1980s, the king of pop music was Michael Jackson, and his queen was Madonna. That's what we were dancing to at the Warsaw and the Copa, et cetera, and so on. And choral music comes along that is heavily Broadway driven and communal spirit. How did that catch fire in the 1980s here in South Florida when Michael Jackson and Madonna were kings and you could live in the same space?
Yes, but there were already choruses. I mean, the first gay chorus was a women's chorus in Philadelphia. Everybody thought it was San Francisco, but it was this brave group of women in Philadelphia. And then San Francisco was formed, New York, and of course, San Francisco did that first national tour and ended up with a horrible debt. But they were able to get support nationally to get out of that and then continue. And of course, San Francisco is still an icon,
an epitome
of choruses. But the other thing that happened was, yes, we all loved the Broadway music. All of a sudden, these gay composers came out of the woodwork and started creating music for the gay choruses, for men's choruses, for women's choruses, for mixed choruses. And it was amazing. We even have and most people didn't realize it was a long time for us to find them. In California, Elton Rhodes' music was formed by one of the composers who taught at the University of California. And that's where all of the gay composers were sending their music, and we could go there and get it. And it was, you know, music from Holly Near and Chris Williamson and Romanofsky and Phillips and Lynn Lavner, who still lives right here in South Florida, arranged for men's and women's courses, plus all this new material, you know, like Coming Home for Christmas. But it wasn't just coming home for Christmas, it was coming home for Christmas with an understanding that you're a gay person and you're going to come home.
If you don't follow Broadway or choral music, West Side Story and Jerry Herman and Stephen Sondheim, and the Broadway book is the gay music book.
It really is.
America. So many of our Gen Z and millennials don't realize that Somewhere from West Side Story is a gay song written as a secret song in 1956. Amazing, amazing. Of course, you personally have vast experience in South Florida's music scene. Just a quick resume. You were artistic director of Miami Oratorio Society. You were the director of the Miami Gay Men's Chorus, the director of the Barry University Chorale, and even a teacher at Michael M. Kropp Senior High School in Miami, where you conducted their 4 courses. And I understand they're basically the Magnet Entertainment program.
Yes, one of them.
Yes,
one
in
of
Miami,
them in Dade County. Yes.
Dade County. I'm curious from your seat, why the passion for choral music?
It's interesting too, because I didn't start off as a choral musician. I became a teacher in New Hampshire, and at the end of my first year, I had to start a course. There was already a fabulous band. So I started it, and by the end of my 3rd year of teaching, I realized I was a superb band conductor, being a little bold there, because we were coming home with superiors from state. My singers were growing, and it was becoming a solid program, but I realized I needed some more training, specifically in the choral arts field. That's what brought me to South Florida in 1979 to do my master's at the University of Miami.
Which has an outstanding music program, one of the best in the country.
I couldn't be more proud.
Yeah.
And with every intention of going back to New Hampshire. And after I'd been here a year, I also started to meet gay people. I came married. And then after being here for 2 years, I graduated. I had already told the school I wasn't coming back. I was really enjoying the diversity of the South Florida community and certainly the gay community. I came out and really very quickly I met my husband.
And as they say, history is history.
History is history.
Yeah.
41 years.
You know, it's funny, and of course, we know when we say this is the gayest place on planet Earth, gay community, New Hampshire, South Florida.
Yeah. That's, you know, it was like, is there anybody else like me? And,
right.
You know, and I would
about 300,000.
I would hear things about like Atlanta, but.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. All right. Well, it brings us to, which is one of the things I want to discuss while you're here with us today. Gary is one of the South Florida icons that is being honored in a new retrospective that you can see at the Galleria throughout June Pride Month. We're right in the midst of Pride Month, and it's called Take Pride, a retrospective of LGBTQ plus life in South Florida. And it's been curated by History Fort Lauderdale. And remember at the top, I talked about the value of remembering our history, and that's what the intent here is by History Fort Lauderdale. In fact, Patricia Zeller, the executive director of History Fort Lauderdale, said about this exhibit, quote, History Fort Lauderdale is proud to showcase the valuable legacies of our LGBTQ businesses and influential leaders who have worked to make our great city an ideal place to live, work, and play. Education and tolerance are paramount as we continue to build upon those accomplishments, safeguard our progress, and move forward to ensure that Fort Lauderdale remains a welcoming place to live and visit for all during Pride Month and beyond, end quote. When you first heard that you were going to be part of this special exhibit of History Fort Lauderdale, what was your thoughts about that?
Well, Michael asked told me that I'd been
Michael
selected.
Goodman.
Michael Goodman,
Yep.
Who sort of coordinated the whole thing, and then told me the list of the other pioneers that they were honoring. And it's an incredibly impressive group to be part of.
Yeah.
I'm old enough that back in 1986, there was a whole other group of pioneers that so much of this generation doesn't know. I couldn't have accomplished what I did without the support, knowledge, and understanding that I earned from Alan Schubert, and when he said he's going to start a community center, I said, I'm your first volunteer. You just keep teaching me, and God bless you. Gary Steinsmith and Terry Bradshaw and Alan Turrell, the list goes on and on. So I'm very proud of this, being part of this group, but I also have to acknowledge there's a whole nother group of, pioneers that came before us.
I'm curious, when you say that, and we're going to talk in detail about the exhibit in a moment, but when you say pioneer, pioneer for OK Boomer can mean old, or it can mean the accomplishment of icon status. How do you take the word pioneer? You're a gay man, after all.
Absolutely, I am. I'm not sure, and I think it had to have been the support of those people that that were so supportive of me, where I actually got the courage to do this. Just we're going to start a court, and it became a hundreds of $1,000 budget and over 100 men, and we were doing all of these. I guess that's where that pioneer spirit happened.
You like the word pioneer?
I absolutely take great pride in it.
Right.
I take great pride in the fact that they think that I'm earned that status by having a vision to start a chorus.
Yeah. So one of the criticisms of our community, especially gay men, is our obsession of youth, no matter what our age is, our obsession. That's not the situation here. You're taking a word that says, wait, that's accomplishment.
That's accomplishment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Lovely. All right. Well, let's tell you a little bit about the event. You've got to see the exhibit. As I said, it's going on all month long. It's a free exhibit at the Galleria. It's located near Savorsky in the Galleria between Macy's and Dillard's. History Fort Lauderdale describes the exhibit as follows. Quote, you can see over 100 historical photographs plus videos and costumes chronicling the growth, awareness, and struggle of the LGBTQ community through the years. Photos capture the liberation movement of Fort Lauderdale and Broward County in the 1960s and the 1970s, the activism and rise of pride parades and human rights rallies, and the proliferation of gay-centric, world-famous business endeavors here, including the Marlin Beach Hotel. And for those that don't know what the Marlin Beach is, please Google it right now. Other businesses like the Copa and Backstreet. End quote. And that's from Fort Lauderdale. The history of our community, very unique in America. We're the beach gay destination. There's New York, there's West Hollywood and Los Angeles, there's San Francisco, right. But we're the beach community for gay America.
We really are. We're a destination.
Yeah.
And that's a very big responsibility, to be honest. I mean, we have to provide the atmosphere that's comfortable, that's attractive, that's safe, and welcoming. The businesses to support that are welcoming. That when you walk in, you've come to a place where your business, your presence is treasured and honored.
Celebrated. I think that's a bullseye point. You went to, we launched June Pride Month. Some people have argued over the last number of years, why do we need a June Pride Month? What's the point? And then something happened in Tallahassee and we realized why we need Pride Month. When you went to this exhibition premiere for June Pride Month at Galleria and you saw you and all of the others that were celebrated in the exhibit, what was your reaction?
First of all, great pride to be part of that group. But then, as I said, you know, there were Michael, our friend Michael, the photographer, had put together this incredible exhibition. It's more than just the pictures of the group of us that were honored as pioneers. There was photographs of me conducting the chorus 30 years ago, and all of the pride parades, and it's amazing to walk down memory lane there and see all of that. At the same time, I would say maybe 10 years ago, when I could finally get married to my husband, I kept thinking, oh, I never thought this would happen in my lifetime, and how wonderful that we're making all these strides, and we have people that are adopting, and it's not being fought nearly as badly as it was before. And now all of a sudden, in the last couple of years, it's gotten worse. We're seeing a struggle to maintain what I consider to maintain my life and my dignity.
Yeah, the dignity of our community. You referenced it. Gary references the photo exhibition. I want to draw some attention to it. When you go to
Michael Murphy,
and I'm going to talk about Michael right now. When you go to the exhibit, there's a very interesting exhibit that Gary is mentioning, and it is a photo tribute wall featuring lifestyle and significant event photos from the noted photographer Michael Murphy, and he has a photography company called Michael Murphy Photography. Murphy has been capturing the historic moments and memorable individuals that have shaped South Florida's LGBTQ+ landscape. The exhibit includes the showing of open dialogues, and I entice all of you watching us right now, you must go and see it. It is an award-winning short film which captures the personal narrative of LGBTQ voices, produced by Art and Culture Center Hollywood. It's directed by Miami-based filmmaker Freddie Rodriguez, and it is funded by the Community Foundation of Broward. And we get all of the roses in because they've made this happen, and it is absolutely fantastic. When you saw the exhibit of the photos and the video, thoughts that you had?
Great memories. So many men and women that I loved as my friends over the years. That was fabulous. I was very proud to be part of the dialogues video, the documentary that Freddie put together. That was another unique and amazing experience for me. It's moving, and if you go, you will start to understand why we are pioneers, why we treasure this community, why we worked so hard, and why we're still working hard, and why we won't give up.
It makes me wonder, Gary, when you say that, in terms of all of the hard work, the heavy lifting that was done, my number one question has always been about Marsha P. Johnson. What would she think of today, in looking at us today?
Exactly.
You look at that in terms of our community today. Thoughts about our memory of our pioneers and the struggles that came before them?
Yep.
What do you think about how the community is doing today?
I think that more and more people are realizing that we can't sit back and just watch this keep happening. Not when one person can make a decision about a poem that then a whole school can't read, or that one person makes a decision about a Disney movie that the other parents have given their permission. If we are in fact a free Florida, as our governor has said, then you have no right to tell me that I can't take my kid to that program or have my kid read that poetry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is not free. When some people, or a small group of people, or even one, make those kinds of decisions, in history we call that fascism. Mm-hmm. I look back at our veterans, who I couldn't respect more. And I have to realize that's what they fought for, especially in World War II, when we saw in Germany books being banned, books being burned, music being burned because it was by a Jewish composer.
Holocaust, right? Pink triangles.
These things are happening again. We're rewriting history, and writing entire communities out of the history. And if it, as it was said, you know, they came for this group and they came for this group and they came for this group and I did nothing. And then they came for me and there was nobody left to help me. We have to realize that we are one of the many groups that they are going to come after.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting.
And it makes me really angry. And I have to go after the media a little bit about this. Trans people are 1.6% of the population. And yet the media has helped the Republican Party make them a boogeyman. 1.6%. Here in Florida, I want to know why the media is not focusing on the fact that 30% of our population is 65 years and older, and they need help. Mm-hmm. And this state is one of the few states in the nation that still has never taken the Medicaid money from the CARE Act. Mm-hmm. That could help all of those seniors.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting because as I hear you talk about this kind of activism that you're talking about, I think about how I opened the interview with you of quoting Winston Churchill. We must remember our past.
Absolutely.
Or we're going to make the same mistakes.
Yes.
And hence, exactly what History Fort Lauderdale is celebrating this month at the Galleria. I want to talk about you personally for a moment. Another interesting thing about you is you retired in December. The Fort Lauderdale Gay Men's Chorus and the South Florida Gay Men's Chorus merged into one of the world's most important queer music groups. That merger in December, both were renowned, but it made them one of the most important queer music groups in the entire world. I'm curious, in your retirement and being the pioneer that you're being recognized this month at Galleria, how did you feel about passing the baton in your retirement in December?
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. I had nothing, you know, I was not involved at the time when the groups split. And then the Fort Lauderdale group, the small group remaining, came and asked me to be a conductor. And I conducted one concert and said, you know, I think I've retired. Well, then they came back again, and 13 years later, I was still conducting and truly loving every minute of it. But it was also a commitment, 37 years long, where I'm very proud. Other than when I had a medical issue, I don't think I ever missed more than 1 week of any one concert season. That's the kind of commitment you have to make to do that for your singers. And I decided that it was time that I got a chance to do some of those things that I wanted to do, or that my husband and I wanted to do together, like travel and be gone for more than just 1 week and see a little bit more of the world. So I really admire the work that Mark Kent and his board and his artistic committees,
Gabe Salazar,
Gabe and Anthony, and who I've known for years, they have an incredible organization there. And where the people that kind of had friction are gone, and it was this wonderful coming together that happened. And it actually started when we had the accident at the Pride Festival, and members of the other chorus came and sang for the memorial service with us.
Yeah.
And then
let's make sure that we take a moment to recognize that. I was broadcasting on the stage on that day at Stonewall Pride, and 2 years ago an accident took place. Just basically quickly summarize what happened.
We had a truck that we would use so that people that couldn't walk the parade, you know, could participate. And there was an accident with the driver getting his foot caught, and the truck just took off. It hit me, it hit 2 other chorus members, one of whom did not survive. Probably the most traumatic thing that's happened in my whole life. It really was. But again, this is why I'm proud to be part of this community, the support.
They rallied, didn't they?
They rallied, not just the chorus members, not just the guys from the other chorus. You know, I heard from the people that put on the parade. I heard from the people from other groups that called and checked on me, and the other members of the chorus as well.
Yeah,
it showed we were the community we hope we are.
We live in a good one in Fort Lauderdale. One last thing in terms of the merger of the choruses. I thought about you in the announcement of the special event that's being done for June Pride Month of Disney Pride.
Yes.
The 42 songs from the Disney Songbook.
Yes.
Weren't you just a little bit jealous that, oh gosh, I wish I was the conductor of that event? Just a little bit?
Sure, you can't, you know, when new music comes out, you know, or new arrangements comes out, it was always very exciting to go research them and to find them and then, you know, present them to the community.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I have plenty of those wonderful memories under my belt.
And that's the advantage of being a pioneer.
Nobody can take those away.
That's exactly right. Well, as I said, we're celebrating June Pride Month. However, as we've alluded to a little bit in our conversation, there's a gigantic shadow cast over June Pride Month 2023 from the governor's mansion in Tallahassee. You are a retired teacher, an arts high school in Miami-Dade County, lifelong teaching. What do you think about what we're watching from presidential candidate Ron DeSantis?
I read in his resume that he was a teacher. And I would tell you that I can't imagine a teacher that has actually been in a classroom. Now, it wasn't a public school. He worked at a private school. But still, we watch these, especially teenagers, grow up and the stress that they go through. And then to add the stress that he is putting on them with book bannings, with teachers leaving, good teachers that love their students, that wanted to make this a profession, and they're feeling forced out of their classrooms by a small minority. And I keep waiting for the rest of Florida to go, when are you going to stand up and realize that this one person or that one person or this small group of mothers has started to tell you how to raise your children? And then to have him call it a free state of Florida?
It makes you angry.
Makes my blood boil. Because I can't imagine these kids have enough stress today growing up that they don't need this coming down from the legislature.
Well, it's interesting to me. 1986, when you're at War Memorial and you do We Are the World in 4 encores, that was a protest moment. And almost 40 years later, you're still protesting. You've got to see this amazing exhibit. It's at the Galleria on Sunrise here in Fort Lauderdale. Learn about the history and the amazing contributions that all of these icons have contributed as trailblazers for our LGBTQ+ community here in Fort Lauderdale. And of course, that includes Gary Keating. Make sure you see complete details at historyfortlauderdale.org. There's lots of information about it. This is an exhibit you don't want to miss. If you live in this community, you want to see it at Galleria. Gary Keating, thank you very much for joining us today on Unapologetically Queer.
It's been my pleasure.